I think if gorillas knew how to grill food, they'd be way better at it than us. And also, orangutans would make a better fruit salad. This is a very special podcast, as you guys can tell by the view behind us. We are in the snow, or the lack of it.
By the way, YouTube or whoever, yes, this is a beer, and yes, I'm over 18, and yes, I live in Australia. So what I'm doing right now is legal.
He's actually 17 and 8 months old.
That's not even true. But yeah, we're up in the snow. That's about it. There's not much snow. The weather's not great.
We're cold.
We're all a bit cold. We're all a bit tired. But we're all having a good time. And even more special than the fact that we're at the snow for you is the fact that, yes, that means you will be getting a snow vlog video type of thing coming soon of Jake learning the ropes of how to ski or snowboard. I don't really know what it's going to be yet.
Yeah, we tried a little bit of skiing out today, and I think it went very smoothly. There were no bumps, no incidents, and I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the lifts weren't open, so
yeah, it was good.
Hopefully it's a lot more fun tomorrow. But for the moment, we're enjoying, being away from home, being out of the studio. A lot of you people don't recognise that this is actually harder than a 9-to-5 job. Podcasting
is harder than a 9-to-5 because
because we are also working a 9-to-5 job. No, not really. This is probably the easiest part of my day, is sitting here and pretending like the rubbish that I'm talking isn't rubbish.
So we drove up yesterday and
yeah, it was a late night last night. What did we go to bed at, like 3?
Yep.
And then we were up at the crack of dawn this morning.
Yeah, Marty promised me he would be up by 10 a.m. because he didn't want to sleep all day. He said, I'm setting an alarm for 10. And
set
so
an
I
alarm
was
for 9:30 actually.
Well, I was so excited for it to tick around to 10 o'clock. I was like out here with Mega Marty counting down the seconds. And then it ticked over to 10 and still no movement. And I got around to around 10:30, still no movement. Quarter to 11, I reckon, was when there was... I reckon you walked out at about quarter to 11. At quarter to 11. Okay. It's been a long morning. It's also been a long podcast already. We're 4 minutes in. I've been corrected twice.
It's a rough day.
Shit, that's massive.
No, hopefully we'll have some good stories. The trip. The reason we don't have many stories to tell yet is because the trip's just started, essentially. We've got a couple more days left up here, all of us. But yeah, exciting times. I had a good week. Feeling a bit run down, feeling a bit sick if I sound a bit different this week, or if I'm sniffling a bit. That's why I feel a bit sickly. But how was your week?
My week's been really good. I worked. Some of that will actually come up later in story time. I've got a very special story about Jake and his best attempts of trying to make anywhere from 40-year-old to 60-year-old woman laugh. And very serious woman as well. So Jake had to pull out all the big moves. So that's something to look forward to later. But that's basically all I did. I worked. I snuggled up in my bed. I got warm. I probably at some point met the love of my life. That's normally a weekly occurrence. There's a new one of them every week. But yeah, all around pretty happy. Pretty happy. And this is a big change from a few episodes ago. Episode I think 47 it was, where Jake just talked for the first 15 minutes about how much he wanted to...
Right, we probably shouldn't beat around the bush too much. We got things to get to, people. You get...
Such as dinner.
You get anywhere between half an hour to an hour of us every week, and you've just got to be okay with that. Alright?
Yeah. You got a long one a few weeks ago. You got the longest one we've ever done. You took it longer than ever.
What do you reckon the longest podcast we could do is?
I reckon I could do a 24-hour pod.
You reckon you can do a 24-hour pod?
I don't know. I'm just speaking at this point.
I reckon if we hit 5 hours, I reckon after 5 hours, I You know that story you told about when they were left in the room for 15 minutes, they started pressing the zap button.
Yeah.
I reckon I'd start spamming the zap button after 5 hours.
I think we could probably pod for a good I reckon 5, 6, maybe 7 hours we could pod for, but I reckon most of it would have to be cut. Because we'd probably say either heinous things or things that we probably don't want out in the world about our personal lives, such as our sexuality.
Yeah.
What?
All right. Let's get into animal evolution because I'm reading that's chit chat. Chit chat's nice and sweet. We're at the snow.
So everyone's talking about at the moment, because it's a big hot topic, animals evolving and the evolution of animals from the egg, which is what
Chicken
Marty
or the
brought
egg.
up. Yeah, that. But here's what I'm saying: is when are they going to continue evolving? There's some things I want to see, and I want to see animals be able to unlock and do to, I think, push the economy to a next level.
This really encapsulates Jake's versus Marty's sort of outlook on life. You know, Marty's always looking in the rearview mirror, looking at what was. Jake's always looking forward.
Yeah.
He's always got his eyes on the road and eyes on what's to come.
It is.
And maybe even his eyes on his Google Maps that he set up. Because when Marty says, I know how to get to Mount Buller from Melbourne, I've done the trip about a lot of times. And Jake goes, I'm just going to... He doesn't even say anything. He just chucks on Apple Maps and pretends like
I
nothing
did it
ever
because I was counting on you falling asleep, so I'd have a nice peaceful trip. But yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Which I didn't get any. I didn't get any navigation instructions during that half hour.
It was straight. That's straight cruising.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, go.
So I was inspired for this segment by an Instagram post that I saw that just had a few captions of what other people wanted to see. I think if gorillas knew how to grill food, they'd be way better at it than us. And also, orangutans would make a better fruit salad. And then someone else replied to it saying, I feel orangutans would be more suited to the attentive and patient task of grilling wieners, burgers, and ribs to perfection. Gorillas would likely make a really good rubs, sauces, and other forms of meat treatments.
I reckon an orangutan would know its way around making a really mean dip. Like a hummus or a tzatziki, is that what it's called? Like a nice tzatziki or like a beetroot. You know what I mean?
I think so.
I just feel like they have that in their arsenal.
I agree with this.
I remember in high school when we did that big project, I think it was year 7, around what was it, like palm oil?
Yeah.
That's the one that kills the orangutans.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
the biggest palm oil company in the world is called Tyson's palm oil, and everyone in the class was like, oh, Tyson, you hate orangutans. I was like, no, and then so I had to go out and seek out Jake to be my best friends because he was a redhead.
So anyway,
and Gemma to be my girlfriend because she's a redhead. Just to dodge the allegations that I don't like orangutans.
So that's what inspired me. But
Is that
then
bad?
I wanted to know.
It makes so much sense.
Oh, well, that's alright.
Here's some stuff that I want to see. Lions. I feel like lions, if they evolved and gained the ability to be able to play chess, I think they would be great at it because they're always they're just stalking their next move. They're thinking it through before they pounce.
Yeah.
Tiger would be better at chess than a lion.
I disagree. I think a lion would be better at chess.
Lions. I think if you've ever watched Lion King,
I think a tiger, if it had, if all animals evolved to have our brain capacity, and like that, I think the tigers would be the apex predator. I think physically they're the most dominant.
and I think it was some David Goggins wannabe that said the lion's the king of the jungle. How's he the king of the jungle? He's not the strongest because the elephant's the strongest, or the elephant's the biggest, and the cheetah's the fastest. So if he's not the biggest, fastest, strongest, what makes him the king of the jungle? His mentality.
The elephant's probably the biggest. No, I've seen that quote.
Yeah. So yeah, they've got a different mentality that I think they'd bring to the game of chess that would be unmatched.
Yeah.
Here's where I think I start getting a little bit more controversial, and this could be cut because I feel like these are a bit borderline. Otters. I'm sick of otters making dams. I feel like
That
if
was
they
beavers.
That is a beaver.
I think
no
beavers make dams.
otters
No, otters don't.
beavers. I feel like if beavers made, instead of making dams, if they made sky-rise buildings and skyscrapers and cities that people could live in, I feel like that would help the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sick of these people these
Will
little
we pay them though?
no way. Are you kidding me? But I'm sick of these little otters or beavers, whatever the ones they are, getting away with just putting this labour to waste. They're just, hey, you know what would be so funny right now? What if I blocked up the whole water supply
Similar.
of this town?
Similar is penguins.
Yeah.
Penguins would make really good waiters.
Yes.
I think just the way they waddle around, they're not like too loud necessarily. I mean, if you see Mr. Popper's penguins, maybe you know one of them's a little bit squawky. But I'm talking about like they'd waddle around. I just feel like they'd have it in their arsenal to carry a plate around, and they already look fancy. They don't even need to dress up. They look fancy. Maybe chuck a bow tie on one of them.
That actually reminds me of this is like this was stuck in my head all week because it was like half a Jake's pickup line, half a Sully saying kind of thing.
Hey,
It was have you seen Doolittle?
Doolittle.
Yeah.
What's Doolittle?
It's this guy who can like it was Robert Downey Jr. did it. It's like a biggest fail of a movie.
Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, maybe that was it. He could like talk to animals or something.
Yeah.
So who up watching?
Oh, that
Doolittle
was
right now?
I thought that was Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, that's Doctor Strange you're thinking about. Or Morg's
Oh
mum.
no, I'm thinking of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
They both did Sherlock Holmes, I
Such
think.
a funny quote. It was like what is it? You die a hero, or you. Oh, it was like photos for
From Batman.
Two, and no, it was photos of them too. And it said you
You either live long enough
to
to...
become.
No, you either die a hero or
Yeah.
live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, but this one was you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become Sherlock Holmes. It was like all the actors that
They've played Sherlock Holmes. Isn't Doctor Who a bit like that? James Bond.
Who?
Doctor?
Who?
Yeah, you get it.
And my last one was squirrels. And I think I got the animal right this time. But squirrels are the ones that collect the nuts, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's also labour that's been put into waste. Instead of squirrels collecting nuts and storing them, what if they collected lollies? Like every time they saw a lolly, they collected it, took it back and hid it. And then when it comes to Halloween time, they could set up a little stall and they could make some money.
Yeah, this is capitalism.
Yeah. So those are just the things I've been pondering in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more that could happen.
Trust me, I really racked my brain on this stuff, and somehow something slipped through the cracks of otters versus beavers.
Beavers.
I just
Yeah.
didn't want us to be seen as Bevo. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Or whoever his name is.
Dinner. You know the rules. Alright. Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think animals have a lot more to give back to the community. I think we're kind of carrying the ball in terms of destroying the environment. I think that if they sort of, stepped up to the plate a bit, we could be over and done with this shit quicker.
Yeah, I think that because I always think like animals are pretty cool. I wish I was like an animal. Like, it would be sick to be a bird.
You're an animal.
It would be sick.
Don't
to
act
be...
like you don't have that beast inside of you.
Like, it'd be awesome to be a lion or like a bird or something like that, or an eagle. It's kind of a bird, but they're cooler.
It's a big bird.
But then I think about it, and then I go, but man, I just love Fortnite Battle Royale.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off. You can fly, but can you really soar?
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. I want to take a little intermission.
Yeah.
No, like we'll stay sitting and we'll stay talking. I just wanted to get your opinion on the new couch. I was saying before, it's very like similar size to our original couch. What was that?
I'm testing
You're
it.
nesting it.
Testing it.
You're testing me, mate.
Testing my patience.
let's get into some Sully sayings. Marty's got 4 Sully sayings for us this week. Jake, if you want to jump in and tell me some sayings you've thought of this week, that's great. I've used 3 out of these 4 this week. One of which I didn't use, but I thought about it. Like, when something happened, I thought about it. And so I'll give you the explanation. Sugarcoat it for me. This is one that I love using. Whenever, most of these come up in work because, sometimes you just need to get quick to the point at work. Whether it's podcasting, whether it's my day job, who cares? Sugarcoat it for me always works. Got to give some bad news. Got to receive some bad news. Asking for an opinion about anything. Always, right after I'm said, like, oh, what do you think of this? Sugarcoat it for me. Always going to make me feel better. They're always going to say it a bit nicer. And it just makes me feel like I'm doing a good job, even if I'm not. Sit down on the couch after a pod, say, how do you think I went, Jake? But sugarcoat it for me. And he's like, it was all right.
That's just reminded me of something. There's always... You have an ability, when I say something, to laugh at it and pump up my tyres about that joke that I've just made.
Yeah.
And if I ever try and make that joke again in a similar situation... No one else seems to laugh. I remember it was about 2 or 3 years ago. You were telling me about something and you were like, do you know this? And I said, oh, sing it for me. And you just pissed yourself laughing. And I thought, oh, maybe that's a really funny joke. I've said that probably about 100 times since then. And I don't reckon I've gotten a laugh since.
Really?
So I reckon I should probably try and, throw the towel in.
Maybe broaden your horizons a bit. Maybe
you can't say I gave up without saying
the only reason I hysterically laugh at anything you say.
Yeah.
Because back in school, you used to beat me up when I didn't laugh at your jokes. People don't know about this.
Or when you didn't take my side in an argument.
Yeah. You used to beat me up. Alright, next one.
One time.
One time after the meat pie incident, which was never going to bring up ever again on the pod.
Incident not happening on pod.
Because it could cause the podcast to break up, if we're being completely honest.
That was when Marty realised that I was actually he was the boy of the relationship.
the lady.
He was the wife.
He was the wife.
Yeah, I was the husband.
Jem's the kids.
Yeah.
Jem's snoozing. Alright, moving... That's a pretty good indication of how this podcast is probably going, about 21 minutes in. Alright. Next is, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said, and Elephant's Faithful 100%. I used this one time last week, and that was with Gemma. And I think I'd said something that maybe offended her, or she didn't necessarily agree with. And then I just doubled down, and I said what I said, and I meant what I said. No, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said, and Elephant's Faithful 100%. And it actually worked out for the better, because when I said that second part, the elephant part, she looked at me, she kind of, I think, forgot what I was talking about, and looked at me and went, what? What are you talking about? Do you know where that quote's from?
No.
It's from Horton Hears a Who.
Oh.
Obviously, Horton's an elephant, and he just says it. And it just, I don't know, when I watched that movie when I was a kid, that always stuck with me. And so now whenever I say I meant what I said, I instead say I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. And if I'm feeling really rambunctious with it, I'll say an elephant's faithful 100%.
Yeah.
And it worked. So that was a good saying, I thought. Second to last, this was the one I didn't use, but I thought about using this week, was the old saying, if everything smells like shit, check your nose. I don't actually remember. I just remember thinking about it and thinking, I don't know where I got that from or where I've heard that from, but I'm going to write it down in my podcast notes because that's a bar.
That is actually a bar, and I think it's true because, as we brought up earlier in the podcast, episode 47, Jake wanted to...
we can't keep bringing it up.
He didn't actually.
Episode 47 was already pretty dicey.
Yeah, but maybe Jake was just miserable because everything smelled like shit. But maybe his nose just was in a paddock somewhere, in a horse paddock, in the middle of nowhere that was full of horses, and they're just eating a bunch of hay.
I think the saying's meant to more be along the lines of, if you keep finding problems everywhere with everyone else, maybe check within yourself. I think that's what they're sort of talking about.
I would have thought meant like if everything's miserable, you're probably the miserable one.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's kind of what it means.
I think that's a great thing about Sully's sayings is that people resonate with them individually.
Yeah,
and
no, I actually think you're right.
Yeah,
I think every saying. I feel like some sayings it's kind of hard to resonate with. Full stop.
I love a Big Mac.
Just love a Big Mac.
Can I get a bog and bun? And those are two that I feel like they're pretty straightforward. People would all kind of see.
I feel like those are ones that you either resonate with or you don't. And that's where the individualism comes out. Okay, lastly, I actually used this one, and I was pretty proud of this one. Once again, I don't know where I got this from. I think I got this from a movie. So yeah, I don't really know where I got this one from. But I was working my day job, and I was midway through doing a task that I sort of, if you guys don't know, I work in a customer service job, and I sort of had to go serve a customer.
Yeah.
Inside, I was trying to clean up this area because it was just had been destroyed. So I was trying to clean it up, but by cleaning it up, I wanted to. It was so bad that I needed to hit sort of in my mind a bit of a hard reset. So I was pulling everything off the shelves, and then I was going to put them all back the way they were meant to be. But the customer came over pretty much right when I just pulled everything off the shelf.
Yeah.
And so when I came back, another one of my co-workers was sort of around the area scratching their head being like, how did this happen? Who's done this? This is crazy. And I came over and said, oh, sorry, that was me. And they were like, what are you doing? And I dropped it. I said, look, destruction breeds creation. And I just sort of left it with that. And I started getting back to work. And they understood. And they understood what I meant was that, you know, sometimes to move forward, you got to take 2 steps back.
That's true, actually, because sometimes you're on a hill and you should take 2 big steps down the hill to walk 1 step around the hill.
Whoa.
And if you guys are unfamiliar with mathematics or geometry, that's probably for the best because those numbers don't add up.
Alright, that's all his sayings this week. I feel like we dropped some really good sayings there. Definitely Trump's Big Mac and Bogdan Bars, so that's alright.
Jake's Deep A is what it's written down as. This is Jake's Deep Answer.
Jake's Deep R.
Jake's just taking it. Just copping it today. No, so this is in another saying, actually, which I heard this week, and I thought...
Sorry, I'm just seeing your screensaver. I always knew there was Batman on there, but I never knew you had the words righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on there as well.
With a photo of Batman. It's literally awesome. It's literally awesome.
Okay.
I made that a few years ago. I don't know why. But anyway, I heard this saying, and I found that it resonated with me, not for the reason that it intended to, because I think the reason is a bit of self-reflection and realizing, like, am I actually a good person? I saw it and I listened to it, and I didn't think, am I a good person? I thought, yeah, I reckon I would. And now here I'm going to tell you the saying. The saying was, yeah, you are pretty, but if the world was blind, who would you impress? And I would say probably the same amount of people, because many people look at me and they don't see Jake. Well, they see Jake, but they don't see just an ordinary young humble boy. They see a co-host of a popular podcast. And all my fellas out in Ashburn, you guys know, like, you guys wouldn't care whether I was... I got to tread lightly here.
A wise man once told me, you don't look with your eyes, you look with your heart. You don't feel with your fingers, you feel with your heart. You don't hear with your ears, you hear the fart.
And I know another guy who said, who smelt it, dealt it. And another guy who said, man, where are we sitting?
Do they rhyme? Perfection, invention?
Perfecco Invecco.
Perfecco Invecco is a little... I came across a little video that was talking about inventions that this person believes to be perfect and that need no further modifications going forward. You know, as a society, we're always trying to move forward. You talked about it a bit with your animal evolution. As a society, we're always trying to move forward. Yeah, so we talked about last week a little bit how I felt that we had sort of, you know, the dam was running a bit dry in terms of how far we have left to go in our technological advancements. There's a whole lot more that went into that, so if you want to hear about that, go watch the Chicken or the Egg.
That's because we talked about it, but I think we missed a crucial part of the information, is that aliens sent down 3 things. They sent down an iPhone 13.
No.
They sent down... or an iPhone 16 or whatever. They sent that down.
No, 13.
13, yeah. They sent down iPhone 13. They sent down steel as well. I sent down just a little bit of steel.
Galvanized steel.
Yeah, just a little bit of that stuff. But they thought we didn't have it yet, but we had it. Sorry, that one was kind of pointless. But they also sent down James Charles. And he's done more, I would say, and I would argue that James Charles has done more for this generation than what the iPhone 13 has. Or the iPhone in general has. I feel like James Charles has progressed the world forward more than what the iPhone has. And whether it's because you're a sister or you're a brother, it's, you can't argue with me on this.
I wouldn't dare.
If you argue with me on this, you can find me. You can find me.
You're probably a 10 legacy core. That has to be believed.
Well, you're the one editing it.
Let's hope I believe it.
Marty, wake up.
Marty, wake up.
It is at 11 late.
Alright, moving on to what I was actually going to talk about. So I wanted to pick some inventions that I personally think... I didn't really agree with any of the inventions he said. I thought they could all sort of had room to grow, but I thought these... How many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7 inventions... we talk about the 7 wonders of the world. These are the real 7 wonders of the world, because these is where mankind just, threw a ball at the wall and it just stuck. It just did not bounce back, and it didn't need to, quite frankly.
You just keep throwing them against the wall again and again and again, and hopefully something sticks. Yeah. And that's what it is to be a writer, honey.
Alright, the box crystal pen. This was the one that he said in his video that was the only one I agreed with. So box crystal pen is just your standard ballpoint pen. It doesn't have a clicking device. It is just standard blue cap, black cap, red cap, whatever you want. See through so you can see the ink level. It's just, there's just nothing I would change about that pen. You could change tiny little features, but that's not what we're talking about. You could reinforce it with some galvanized steel. Fine. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the fact that... Are you adding a segment mid-pod?
Yeah, I'm just.
It's the first time this ever happened.
Yeah,
the what did I call it again? The box crystals pen. Box crystals pen is just... It's a staple. Pen pal, kinda. That's crazy. Alright, next was beer. Beer is a generalization, but I mean more of a standard beer. You see all these Crown lagers coming through now. You see these what do they call it, bolters coming through now. I don't want to hear anything. I want a classic schooner of whatever it looks like, whatever your favorite
just
brand of beer
Angus.
is. Yeah, like just a classic beer, just a standard beer. Nothing beats it. I don't think it needs to be changed. I don't think we need to start putting flavors in it. We did it with cigarettes. We put flavors in those, and look how that went. The band. It's all over. The kids love them.
I want to be able to walk into a bar, and I don't want to have to say, "Can I please have the iPhone 13 of beer, please?" I want to go in there and I want to say,
"Give me the shuffle. Give me the iPod shuffle.
1 beer, please." Yeah. And I want him to go, "I know exactly what you're after." I don't want him to look at me and say, "Can I please see your ID?" Because he's not convinced that I'm.
I got ID'd the other day I was sitting in a restaurant enjoying dinner with my mum and dad. And I got, first of all, I thought the law, I might be wrong, I've done my RSA, but maybe my RSA failed me, because I thought the law was that and now hear me out on this, because I understand it's not the same. I thought the law was if I was 16 or over, I could enjoy one standard drink with a meal. I understand that doesn't really apply to what I'm about to say, because the reason I got ID'd, I didn't have a beer with dinner, I had a Coke, and then I
feel like that's heavier than beer.
Yeah. I sugar rushed. Then I had, I forget what the dessert's called, but it's the dessert that you have a bit of ice cream, a bit of cookie in there.
Affogato?
Yeah, affogato, with a shot of something? Tequila?
Liqueur or something.
Yeah, some sort of liqueur and a shot of coffee. So I ordered one of those, and she goes, "I'm going to need to see your ID." I'm like, "You really think I'm sitting around here with a couple of 50-year-olds as like an underage person, and I'm just like trying to swindle my way into a shot of liqueur? Just give me the affogato, lady. Seriously."
I got an interesting story.
Nobody else is in this restaurant. Who's snitching? Nobody's snitching.
I went out for dinner with my family once.
And I'm 19, man. I'm pushing 20 now. I can put the ID down, surely. Close to.
I would have been 13, I reckon, 12 or 13. We went out, and my grandparents, I think, they got one of those.
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, but I don't want the, alcohol." And so Mum was just like, "Oh, just give it to Jacob." And then everyone was like, you should do the shot. Just do the shot. Come on, Jacob, just do the shot.
Did you do it?
So I did it. And I sat with a straight face, and everyone was like, "Oh, you hated it, and you hated it." I was like, "No, it's delicious.
No, give me like
it's delicious. Oh, give me like
3 more. Yeah. What is it? It's a shot of.
It's like a shot of.
It has to be a shot of liqueur. That doesn't make sense. It has to be a shot of like some sort of liqueur.
Yeah, no, it's some liqueur. Like, but you can choose.
Is it?
You can choose.
I didn't get to choose.
No, well,
maybe
you get
maybe
to choose
mine was just
sometimes.
water. Maybe she didn't
Yeah.
trust the ID. How did we even get down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, a beer.
Beer. Yeah. So there we go. Next is paper. Kind of goes hand in hand with the pen. I just don't really know how we can trump what we've done already with paper. We've got a few different types of paper, but I feel like paper, just a standard sheet of A4 paper, is pretty quintessential to what we're doing at the moment, and probably going forward. The wheel. Wheels are
thing.
everywhere now.
Big thing.
If you haven't found one, go outside and have a look. It's a circular object, usually placed on the bottom of cars or transportation units of some sort. But I think that's a pretty perfect invention. I don't really know how we can adapt from what we've already got, except for maybe getting rid of the idea of a wheel entirely.
Yeah.
Next is salt and vinegar chips. I'm actually not a massive fan of salt and vinegar chips, which is,
Neither.
I don't know why I made the list. I just feel I eat them and they're kind of like alright,
Yeah.
but I just don't know if there's. I don't know if there's going to be a chip that's as controversial as the salt and vinegar chip. And you know me, I love a bit of. I hate to argue. And so I love that chip for that reason. There's no chip that we could invent, I reckon, that you could put down on the table, and you could put down on a table with 10 seats around it, and 5 people are diving in for it, trying to get first dibs, and 5 people are like looking at the waiter who's just placed down the chips like he's just placed down a gun with 1 bullet left in it. Next is the door, the humble door. Once again, just a pretty quintessential invention. I don't really know how we can expand on that. I think that it's been, in terms of human, dare I say, evolution? Keeping the good in and the bad out. Doors are pretty awesome. But lastly was the one I got really excited about, and that's why I brought it up last. There is nothing I hate more in the general chores I have to do than vacuum. But specifically vacuum with a corded vacuum cleaner. I hate the corded vacuum cleaner.
Me too.
So when Dyson hit the market with 2 inventions, the Roomba, which I personally don't trust, so that's not the one I'm talking about, but I do understand the Roomba could fall into this I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I saw not a Roomba, but a Roomba for lawn. It's like a lawnmower, automatic.
A
lawnmower.
Roomba?
Yeah, a Roomba, because it takes it raw.
A Loomba?
The lawnmower. Anyway, I saw one of them at this place I was working at, and it was like at this nice patch of lawn right next to a swimming pool, and within the space of like 2 or 3 minutes, it tried to kill itself like 10 times. Kept
Into
trying to
the
drive
water.
into the water, and then we get there and we go, "Oh, I'm not done. I'm not done.
I need to
I've got-
finish the lawn
Yeah,
first.
so it would turn like a little bit and then straight into the water again. Oh, back out. A little bit. Oh, no. And then it went and did a loop and came straight back in.
So there is the Roomba, but I'm mainly talking about the cordless vacuum cleaner because
Yeah.
my mum has one at home, and I was asked to vacuum the house the other day when I went over. And I've never had such a pleasant vacuuming experience than just chucking some headphones in, grabbing the cordless vacuum cleaner, and just walking around.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing better than a cordless vacuum cleaner. There's no tripping over the cord. There's no tipping of the actual vacuum cleaner itself. There's no trying to find a plug that fits. There's no sort of calculating, can I plug it in here and how far can I get? None of that. It's just hands-free, all business.
Yeah.
I love the cordless vacuum cleaner. I was really excited to talk about that on the pod this week.
I love the cordless vacuum cleaner. Was that all?
And it's not even it's not even an inconvenience at all, because once you're done with it,
Yeah.
you just chuck it back on the charging dock, and that's how it's stored.
Yeah.
It hangs off the wall, man.
It's good at.
No, I'm serious. Do you have a cordless vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
Oh.
But we don't hang it off the wall.
I don't have a cordless vacuum cleaner,
Oh,
but I didn't buy my vacuum cleaner.
no. My fault.
Yeah,
Is that all?
that's all. That's all.
This.
But you seriously got to get one. You got to get one of these cordless vacuum cleaners.
I
They're
have
awesome.
one. I have one. This next segment is a mid-pod edition. Reminded me of something that I have been thinking about a lot. And I don't know where I got the idea, so I might have seen it somewhere. So if I have, credit to that person, but I honestly don't know. I feel like this is an original idea. But I love we've talked a lot about being in a simulation. Are we in a simulation? And I would love, if we were in a simulation, to each one of us have our own, like, person that is like our pen pal or writes our story for us. So they're sitting up there and writing our story. And I feel like at some point in the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe even a year since the podcast started, the person writing my story, I think he or she or they put down, just the ordinary black ballpoint pen. They set that one aside one night while I was sleeping, and they thought,
They started writing with the glitter pen.
They started writing with a glitter pen. They started writing with a bright blue glitter ink gel pen. And ever since, my life has been on a whole nother level. So if anyone who's out there writing a story for someone else and controlling their life like a little puppet on a string, one thing I recommend, get that glitter pen out, because that thing is a life changer.
I like to think of this situation that you're talking about is they're all sitting in like an essay format sort of thing. So they're all being sort of tested on what they're capable of writing creatively. First of all, I'd love to think that my person's getting an A+.
Yeah.
And if not, I'd love to think that Mama Marty would at least give him an A+, as she did for all my assessments. And second of all, I think for sure they're not writing with pencil.
No.
Because these decisions, man, you got to remember out there, people, they're permanent. And I actually saw another quote.
I reckon they're writing
today,
on a whiteboard, but with a permanent marker.
which is that people, which is that people got to understand that you're free to choose, but you're not free to choose whether or not you live with the ramifications. Those are for sure every day. I also wanted to mention something that I want to do with you. That was a bit of a crazy way to bring that up. So I was talking to a co-worker at work today. I was meant to bring this up a bit earlier in chit chat, but it's just come to my mind. I don't know what he said. He was talking about he did an Ancestry.com kit. And so they're actually a bit pricey. They cost like $130.
Yeah.
So I hope they're legit. But he bought his on sale, so maybe I'll wait for I don't know, maybe they do like when's like the big boom period in having babies?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. They're like a Black Friday sale or something like that. Hopefully they do that. So maybe we'll look into it in the future. But I really wanted us to both do an Ancestry.com kit, because you get to find out some pretty interesting things about your history and like some of your ancestors. He said he's Samoan, I think he was saying. Really? Or like half of his bloodline comes from there. Maybe the other half comes from like New Zealand or the UK. Sorry. So half of his bloodline comes from the UK, and so one of his ancestors, the ancestor of his that came over to Australia that led to his bloodline, was a convict.
Oh, really? And
so was sent over and sentenced to 7 years in Tasmania, which first thing I said was, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. 7 years in Tasmania, that's a long sentence.
Yeah.
I also think Tasmania was like where they sent the real bad ones, and if you hear what he told me what the guy did,
yeah,
crazy. So the fact that he got 7 years in like the maximum security for, I believe the crime was stealing a handkerchief and a rabbit. To which I thought I dropped the greatest joke of all time, and to be fair, it was a crowd stopper. People were giggling, people were chuckling. I actually think he said, you need to hit the next comedy deck.
Yeah.
ASAP Rocky. Because first thing I said was, doesn't sound like a criminal to me, he just sounds like a shit magician.
I actually I feel like it gives you a good amount of stand-up material as well, because I saw a video of the guy doing stand-up, and don't worry, if you guys at home don't laugh at this one, that's alright, because no one in the video did either, and if you don't laugh at it, that's also alright. But he was saying, I just did an Ancestry.com test, and it came back as I was, 15% African. And, you might be thinking, where's this guy from? Is he from Wakanda? Is he from Wakanda?
Oh, I've seen it.
No, well, actually, you might be thinking, well, maybe he's from Wakanda? Yeah, so
Stinky joke. That was horrible.
if mine comes back with African, you better believe I'm not letting that joke see the light of day.
Yeah, no way. But I think we should do that. That's the ultimately of the story. It wasn't just to share a pretty funny joke I made in the time that is obviously a lot less funny now that I'm trying to say how funny am I, guys.
Yeah.
But what I actually want to say is I think we should do an Ancestry.com
Yeah.
kit. First of all, I'd just be interested. I'm going to do it anyway in my own time.
Let's hope we're not related.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's okay. Yeah, we haven't done it. Fair enough. Once you podcast together, it's it's free game.
It would be like incest.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's crazy. Actually,
Ancestry.com.
Story time. This, I'll try and keep short. I'll try and keep sweet. So I was working last week at a place that used to be a mine. And so after a place is mined, because they bring up all these, chemicals and stuff out of the ground, there has to be like a plan put in place by the government to work the land back to like a safe, habitable place where it can then be like a national park or something like that. So anyway, they're in this plan of 15 or 20 years or 25 years, however long it is. And we were out there just helping like clean up because they found asbestos and stuff. Anyway, out there as a part of the mine, they had like a tower, and it was like 110 meters tall or around about that. It was pretty impressive. And it was like kind of scary. But anyway, it was like just this cylinder of like concrete. And because it was a mine and they've been running since like the 60s, about like 400 or something people had died on their work sites since then. So not only because it's run by the government, but also because they've had so many fatalities, their rules are extremely, extremely strict. Like you can't go anywhere near a vehicle that has its engine running. You have to turn the vehicle off and put the handbrake on before you can go anywhere near it, like the person who's driving. Yeah. Like that's just like one of them. There's many things that we were like, oh, this is pretty kind of stupid, but we'll follow them anyway. Because it's kind of a condition of working there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the lady, I tried breaking I try and get her laughing first. She's about 40 to 60 years old, just a ballpark. And I've tried to get her giggling just to break the ice, because we're not only going to spend 2 hours with her in a room learning about all the rules we have to follow, but then we're going to spend the next few days working for her and communicating with her a lot. Anyway, I introduced myself, and for you guys who don't know, my last name has the word bottom in it. So I just thought I'm just gonna wear that, and so I spelled out my last name, and then I just said bottom, and she like laughed a little, and then she said, actually no, I'm not even gonna say anything because my last name is Mary, and my husband, he makes jokes all the time at Christmas time saying like, oh, Merry Christmas, so I know how you feel. Like, no, you don't have. You don't know how I feel. You don't know how I feel. You ever had nursery rhymes sung about you in primary school that include the word bottom? Anyway, so but that sort of broke the ice, and then the next day, the two other guys I was working with, we were signing in. They were sort of giving stuff to me, just like, and she said to me like, do they always just be this mean to you? And they were like, oh yeah, but like he gives it back. Like he's an idiot. And she was like, oh, that's a bit mean. Anyway, then we were talking about how big the tower was. She said, yeah, it's like 110 meters, but I swear, like, you know when you go up somewhere and it just seems taller than what it seemed like from the ground, like once you're up there? And I was like, yeah, well, that's because you think like from the ground it's 110 meters, but once you're up there, it's like 111 and a bit. Because your eyes are up here. And she like laughed, and then she said like, you're an idiot. Anyway, we're like back and forth, and then I hit her with another one. We were like signing out, and she was like, oh yeah, how'd you guys go? Yeah, good, whatnot. And I was like, look, have you ever thought about base jumping off the tower? Like
base jumping?
Where you have a parachute on, you just jump off a high place and pull your parachute.
Yeah, cool.
And she was like, no, don't even joke about that because we've heard rumors that people are thinking about doing it. She was like, very serious, actually. Then she was like, but we were thinking we're going to keep it up afterwards and we might attach a zip line. And I just dropped the smoothest line ever. I said, well, if you ever do, install a zip line, you got my number.
Well, because you want to use a zip line.
Yeah.
I'd love to use a zip line. I don't think I've actually ever been on like a proper zip line.
We got to do that as well.
Zip line.
Zip line.
Have you seen that video where it's like, I feel like you're only here for the zip line?
I have seen that video, yeah.
I won't bother explaining it.
Yeah. Frank and Marty.
Sing, baby.